The Green America Hometown Tour is brought to you by Atrion IT Technology, Rhode Island College, Cardi's Furniture, and the Arpin Group. I'm Peter Arpin, and welcome to ReNewable Now, this very special edition of our Green America Hometown Tour. We are here in Providence, and we are in the Convention Center, and I am here with John Flaherty from Grossmont, Rhode Island. Hi, John.
Hi, Peter.
So nice of you to be here. Thank you for letting us be a part of the events that you're doing, and thanks so much for being here. Tell us a little bit about this first show and some of the guests that will be on with us.
Sure. So this program, this first show is going to be about the agricultural sector in Rhode Island. And it's a little-known secret that the agricultural sector is actually one of Rhode Island's shining stars during this time of economic stress. The number of farms has grown. The dollar volume in sales in farming in Rhode Island is up. So it's actually one of our shining stars.
Yep. And tell us a little bit about some of the guests that we'll be talking to.
Well, Sheila Brush, who's my colleague at Grossmont, is going to be on the panel, and Sheila is a member of the Rhode Island Agricultural Partnership. And joining her is going to be Jan Eckert. Jan Eckert is a farmer. He's the owner and operator of Sweetberry Farm in Middletown,
which I've heard a lot of good things about.
They're doing great things. And Jan's actually the co-chair of the Agricultural Partnership. And then joining them is going to be Tess Brown-Lavoie. Tess runs an urban farm in Providence called Sidewalk Ends Farm. And it's literally where the sidewalk ends on Harrison Street in Providence.
Well, we love telling positive stories, that is for certain. So we will be right back in a minute, and we will be talking about Rhode Island's agricultural sector, and we are measuring the economic impact of agriculture in the state of Rhode Island. We'll be right back. Welcome back to ReNewable Now. I am here with Sheila Brush, Program Director, Grossmont. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Excellent. Jan Eckert. You are the owner-operator, Sweetberry Farm, and chairperson, right? Or co-chairperson of the Rhode Island Agricultural Partnership.
Yes.
And Tess Brown-Lavoie. Hello, Tess. Sidewalk Ends Farm and Little City Growers Co-op. That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Do you remember all that?
Yeah.
I'm glad I did, too. Welcome to the show. Let me start, and you can all jump in on this as well, but let's start with farming as it is today here in the state of Rhode Island and how we got there.
Sure. Well, farming has changed a lot in the state of Rhode Island. In fact, as recently as 1940, we had about 300,000 acres in production. And today we only have about 68,000 acres. So we've dropped about 80%.
But we hear that agriculture in Rhode Island is a success story. So how does that work?
That's the good news.
Oh, that is the good news.
Yes. So we've dropped in terms of the number of farms and the acreage over a period of time. And then in the last couple of decades, we've seen this wonderful resurgence. We've seen about a 42% growth in the number of farms. We've got more young people interested in farming. We've got more urban farming going on. So there's really, it's a terrific good news story in Rhode Island right now.
So we're seeing some revenue and jobs. You run a farm.
Yes.
How do you see it at this point?
I see it as I call it a cultural shift where people are paying a lot more attention to farms, the value that they have in their communities, the value they have as far as health is concerned. It's not a trend. I think it's an actual shift in thinking, and it's just one of those important things in people's lives now that they're beginning to realize, and probably a combination of factors of losing a lot of farms and seeing them go to subdivisions and other construction. And then just the value that they have, that they contribute to the communities.
Absolutely. Tess, how does Sidewalk Ends Farm and Little City Growers Co-op fit into the equation?
Well, it's interesting because I came up through urban agricultural communities, so I know a lot less about the landscape of Rhode Island agriculture and rural agriculture in general. And We do a lot of the same work. I mean, we're food producers too, but so the same concerns that we're facing in terms of land security or, access to farmland, they
All
mean
impact.
something different in an urban landscape because we're, reclaiming land. We're not trying to preserve farmland.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this: so the total available land now is it 68,000? You said?
It's about 68,000 acres that belong to farms.
All right, so
about 40,000 of that is actually in production.
And
right
so,
now.
how would we get more land in the hands of farmers? Do you think?
Well, there are a number of farms that aren't in production right now. You know what? Farms in Rhode Island are pretty small, and so they're very attractive to people not only as farms but as country estates. So you get folks who are buying small farms but aren't really interested in farming themselves. But that's a great opportunity for some of those people to perhaps lease their land to young farmers who maybe can't afford to buy land but would like to lease land to farm.
I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
And we had talked before, obviously you need outlets, right? You need wholesale, retail, and maybe more importantly, retail outlets. Can you tell us what are some of the successes that you've seen recently in either new farming, the growth of farming, and how can we build on that?
Well, some of the farms that we had in the past, when we had a much more vibrant dairy industry and the nursery industry, which has had its issues with the recession, but there was a lot more monocropping going on where you'd be planting silage corn or potatoes in the nursery stock. Now the trend is to producing fruit and vegetables for direct sales to the consumer, and I think this is one of the keys which make small farms successful. It gives them the ability to find a niche in the market that's eliminates the middleman and makes it the potential to become successful much more
profitable.
Yeah.
Urban farming,
Yeah.
new urban farmers, some of the things they did in Pawtucket. Is that a growing and a new segment then of the marketplace? Will we see more of that in some of the cities, particularly some of the old industrial cities?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that you talked about a cultural shift, and I think we're seeing a lot of momentum in Providence in particular for urban agriculture and the reclaiming of space. There are so many benefits to urban farms moving into our communities.
And some of those include?
Environmental, there's positive environmental effects such as lead remediation and also economic benefits. We're keeping our food dollars really local. Our neighbors in our CSA, or our CSA members, that's community supported agriculture, they are members of our neighborhood, so people walk to our farm and pick up their shares every week.
There's also an educational
Definitely.
aspect, right? And I guess the other thing is ultimately it helps tie some of the citizens back to nature, right? And that seems to be an important part of what you do.
Yeah, that's been really powerful, is exposing kids who maybe haven't had too much opportunity to explore outside of cities,
A
to
chance
show
to
them,
touch and feel.
yeah,
I
and
think.
see what it looks like. Kids have come to our farm and been like, I would never eat anything that came out of the ground, and you're like, well, you do every single day.
Every day. We'll be right back.
Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a 600-pound gorilla, able to pack any home in a single move. Look, pulling up to our house. It's a delivery. It's a truck. No, son, that's the Arpin Moving Guy. An advanced mover from the Arpin Group, sent to defeat rogue movers and moving giants that provide bad home moves. He delivers customer satisfaction, quality work, and award-winning service. For a super move, call Arpin at 800-343-3500 or visit arpin.com. The Moving Guy, saving the world from bad moves, one customer at a time.
Hi, I'm Maureen Carey, publisher of Rhode Island Natural Awakenings magazine. I'm excited about our new partnership with ReNewable Now. Natural Awakenings is a free monthly publication committed to providing services and information to our community to improve your quality of life physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. You'll find cutting-edge information on natural health, nutrition, fitness, personal growth, green living, and the products and services that support a healthy lifestyle. You can find our magazine at health food stores, coffee shops, yoga studios, libraries, and wherever free publications are generally seen. We are locally owned, locally produced, and supporting the Rhode Island economy naturally. You can find us online at rinaturalawakenings.com.
Traditional light bulbs actually generate 9 times more heat than light. Switch to Energy Star light bulbs, and you'll realize just how much cash you were really burning through. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov.
Welcome back to Renewable Now. We were, before we went to break, talking a little bit about the market size. What would that be? Can we put it in terms of dollars and cents?
Yeah, the Rhode Island Division of Agriculture estimates that the farms in Rhode Island do about $100 million in sales.
About 100 million. And what percentage would that represent of the total food production in the state?
Well, that's two different figures. The food production is estimated at 1%. In other words, we produce only 1% in the state of Rhode Island of the food that we consume. The rest of it is imported from other states or from out of the country.
Wow.
Currently, there's a study ongoing that was a collaboration between the University of Rhode Island College of Business Administration, the Rhode Island Economic Development Corporation, the Rhode Island Agricultural Partnership, and the Rhode Island Nursery and Landscaping Association. All 4 of those groups were about to release a study which is titled the Economic Impact Study of agriculture and related industries on the state. And the information is just being finalized now. It's going to be presented as a centerpiece of Rhode Island Agricultural Day at the State House this year.
So there'd be a plan for growth, for expansion? And could that double? Could that triple? What would be a goal for the future of our agricultural business here in the state?
Well, this study is going to measure the economic impact it's having. One of the goals that...
Including jobs, obviously.
Yes. One of the goals that the Rhode Island Agricultural Partnership has in their new 5-year plan, which was released last year, is to increase that food production from 1%, which is the current production level, to 3%, which doesn't sound like much from 1 to 3, but it's tripling.
Well,
what
business would not want to triple their output, their sales, their revenue? While we're talking about that and getting back to a question we had before the break, what are some of then, if all of this happens and we preserve land and we add some additional farmland, what are the other environmental and economic benefits to preserving and growing this farmland?
Well, Tess, do you want to start on the urban side, or?
Sure. I mean, I can only really speak from my experience, but I think that the shape of my business and the way that the Little City Growers Co-op functions within our community is just a really interesting economic model in terms of the way that we operate and the way that we use our resources and the way that we put out our resources. For example, we see a big part of our work as stepping into the waste stream and diverting things that would be thrown away, materials that go to, this morning we were building raised beds out of recycled wood, and you know, we're always we pick up food scraps from Amos House Soup Kitchen, and we compost those. So we're sort of inserting ourselves within these cycles of energy in order to make them more environmentally efficient and
saving money on the back end with tipping fees and not overfilling a landfill, maybe even giving birth to what we hope at some point is statewide compost too, right?
Yeah, that's a big dream for us.
So you have a great economic model, and it works what? In all cities and towns? It only works in urban areas or rural areas?
I'm really interested in learning. This is something I think that, you know, I said earlier I came up through urban agricultural communities, and only recently through the National Farmers Union actually have I been exposed to a discourse that feels like it's moving towards bridging urban ag and rural ag. And I'm interested to learn about how, or to investigate how we might be able to work together, having, for example, maybe a rural farm would want to sell meat or something to my CSA members, and we could do some sorts of partnerships like that, but also in terms of waste and
expanding your economic model and looking at the back end, and certainly the study you talked about. What about Rosemont's role and in helping to all of this to happen? And is your goal ultimately to see jobs being created, or the agricultural segment in particular being sustained long-term here in the state?
Well, I think we're interested in both of those things. I mean, what GrowSmart is really interested in is making sure that our state develops in terms of its economic development in a way that builds on our assets, whether it's our wonderful historic cities or whether it's our open spaces, and does that in a sustainable way. And we see the agricultural sector as one key part of that. So we're working with the farming community, both urban and in the more rural parts of the country.
But let me just interrupt for a second. I guess one argument would be, if this land stays designated or grows as farmland, property taxes are less. Is that correct? So aren't the cities and towns getting less money out of that land?
No, not really, because in the suburban and rural areas, the cost of community services for farmland is less than the cost of community services for developed land.
So the revenue comes down, but the expense side, the service side, comes down commensurate with that.
So the cities and towns,
more than commensurate. There would be positive cash flow.
Yeah, there's actually a net gain.
There's a net gain to the...
And there's a net gain from an economic point of view, but you also have to look at the environmental point of view.
Which we will. Hold on, we're going to go to a break, and then you are going to pick up right there. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Maureen Carey, publisher of Rhode Island Natural Awakenings magazine. I'm excited about our new partnership with ReNewable Now. Natural Awakenings is a free monthly publication committed to providing services and information to our community to improve your quality of life physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. You'll find cutting-edge information on natural health, nutrition, fitness, personal growth, green living, and the products and services that support a healthy lifestyle. You can find our magazine at health food stores, coffee shops, yoga studios, libraries, and wherever free publications are generally seen. We are locally owned, locally produced, and supporting the Rhode Island economy naturally. You can find us online at rinaturalawakenings.com.
Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a 600-pound gorilla, able to pack any home in a single move. Look, pulling up to our house. It's a delivery. It's a truck. No, son, that's the Arpin Moving Guy. An advanced mover from the Arpin Group, sent to defeat rogue movers and moving giants that provide bad home moves. He delivers customer satisfaction, quality work, and award-winning service. For a super move, call Arpin at 800-343-3500 or visit arpin.com. The Moving Guy, saving the world from bad moves, one customer at a time.
Welcome back to this edition of Renewable Now. Jan, let's pick up. Finish the answer on that.
Okay, Tess had mentioned the benefits of the urban farm, and I guess I'll talk about the rural and suburban farms, because so many of the farms are suburban farms now because they're surrounded by housing and commercial development as well. Farms are small businesses, but farms have a distinct advantage over small businesses in the sense that they have all of this open space that contributes to the quality of life of the community, and that's the difference between the two types of small businesses. So from that environmental point of view, that's an added benefit that farms have.
It's a great benefit, and in particular with your farm, you're a great role model of that, because tell us a little bit. I mean, you have families coming, picking strawberries, blueberries, movies, concerts. Tell us a little bit about how you've been woven into that East Bay community.
Well, farms have changed, and they're constantly changing. To produce the products that we do, we sell fruits and vegetables, strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, peaches, Christmas trees, pumpkins. We try and cover every season, but you need more than that for a farm to survive. So what we've done is we've done some of the, they call it agritourism, or some added activities that you do on the farm, which really makes the difference for the farms to survive. And they include, we have free concerts during the summer where we actually serve a meal with a concert. We have movies, Newport Film shows outdoor movies.
Great for the whole family.
It's a family experience.
Special events, corporate events,
Yep.
right? Some very unique things that can happen and give these companies, families, people a different venue. Let's talk a little bit about changing farms and farming practices as it relates to chemicals. There was just a premiere of a movie, Ocean Frontiers, and it tied in to farming and nitrate and phosphate and how that drains back into the Mississippi and dead zones. Are we getting better, more scientific, more organic here in growing fruits and vegetables on our farms?
I think I'm definitely going to yield to the farmers in the group on that one.
Well, there's no question that the situation has improved from what it's been in the past. I mean, I go onto my computer in the morning. I grow several acres of apples and peaches, and I go on the computer in the morning, and this computer has a program which actually tracks the migration from the various weather stations, land-grant colleges, up the eastern seaboard, because most of the pathogens migrate their way up the coast. I get onto my computer, it tells me the degree days, the humidity, all sorts of factors are inputted into this program, which tells me whether or not I can even have an existing pathogen in my orchard. Years ago, farmers would have to spray their product just to cover themselves, to make sure that they didn't lose the crop. Today it's become very scientific. You do what they call, if you're not completely organic, you have what's called integrated pest management, which is a university term, which is, to me, it's just like using common sense and using up-to-date science.
So education is better, working with universities and schools, technology is better, but what about on the urban side? Do you deal with that at all? Is that a concern for neighborhoods, for kids?
Definitely. Well, I mean, I talked both about cleaning space and about recycling resources, and that goes the same for fertility sources too. We definitely believe in recycling fertility through
soil,
our composting practices, and I mean, part of our mission is to reclaim vacant space which isn't being used. I mean, talk about a resource drain in city space.
Absolutely. It sometimes is abused and sometimes is a liability for a city.
Definitely. And so creating productive economic resources in those spaces, it's sort of a win-win situation. But we deal with lead poisoning, and part of what we do is make this space safe for our neighbors. Next to my vacant lot, we have a family with a small daughter, and the idea that she would come and help us in the garden and be unsafe there.
You're not, right?
We don't want that to happen
Absolutely.
because of lead, and we don't want that to happen because of any damaging chemicals that we might
Good.
use. So I think, and also when you're farming with so little space, you have to be really biodynamic in your practices, and so we end up doing weed and pest management in other ways. Like
Very quickly, we got less than a minute. How can our viewers help? What could they do?
Well, they can buy local. They
Okay.
can go
So,
to farmers markets,
farmers market.
take out a share in a CSA, community supported agriculture, where they invest in the farm in the winter and then reap the benefits with the farmer in the summer. They can encourage their local supermarket to buy local and to sell local, and more supermarkets are doing that.
Yes, they are. They're doing a good
Yeah.
job of that. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and I will be right back with some closing thoughts.
When you throw away money on wasted electricity, you're throwing away everything you could have bought with it. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Traditional light bulbs actually generate 9 times more heat than light. Switch to Energy Star light bulbs, and you'll realize just how much cash you are really burning through. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov.
I am back with John Flaherty for GrossMod as we finish up an excellent segment 1. John, a couple of points on our closing points, things that struck me. I really like some of the data that Sheila had as she talked about the current size of agriculture here in the state. And then, of course, there's this goal of potentially tripling it. Talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So this 5-year ag plan calls for tripling the amount of food that's both grown locally but also consumed locally. And it's an ambitious goal. You talk about going from 1%, which is what the current number is, to 3%. May not sound like a lot, but you're talking about tripling it.
Yeah, you are. That's a big increase,
significant.
right? So they talked about, and we talked a little bit about a study, 5-year, but we're 1 year into it. So are people looking back? Where are we at? Do we know in the process?
I think that one of the outcomes of this, and one of the growing realizations, is that farming and agriculture is, in fact, really a small business. And it hasn't always been thought of that way, but it's increasingly becoming thought of that way. And that's how we need to think about it, especially if we're talking about growing from, tripling the volume.
Right, and a small business that has all of the same requirements for cash flow and a balance of assets and liabilities and things like that. But it is a success story.
Absolutely.
Right, there's a focus. There are farmers staying in and new generations coming in. So I really appreciate your time today. And I hope everyone will come back with us next week as we do segment 2 with GrossMod and John Flaherty. And next week we will be talking about the Main Street districts and growth centers. I'm Peter Arpin for ReNewable Now, the show that brings you the business side of green.